Talk to me about how you feel about a lot of these folks. Specifically, I think you talk a lot about those who raided the Capitol on January 6th.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Biden referred to them as a semi-fascist movement, and I think he was being kind, as he often tries to be, and ecumenical by putting the word semi in front of fascist. But I also think he was underselling it in the sense that really what the MAGA movement is about, and especially that sort of foot soldier, grassroots level movement, the types that go to the rallies, the types that were at the January 6th insurrection. They're not just fascist, even though their politic is that, but they're terrorist under whatever definition. You want to look at the U.S. Code definition. You want to look at the Center for Strategic and International Studies definition, which I mentioned in one of the pieces that I wrote on Medium recently. You want to look at the State Department's definition. Just about any definition of terrorism is going to be one that those folks fit. That doesn't mean that everybody that voted for Trump is a terrorist or semi-fascist, but the MAGA movement, the real hardcore movement folks, are indeed terrorists under just about any interpretation of that term. They are deliberately trying to sow fear and terror to gain political ends through violence or the threat of violence. And so when you say things like, well, Civil War 2.0 just touched off because they raided our Emperor God's, tacky palace in Florida. So now I'm getting my ammunition ready. Like, what the hell is that? Obviously that is an attempt to intimidate. When you have somebody try to storm the FBI building in Cincinnati, and rather than denounce it, what did the MAGA leadership, what did Trump and all of the sort of big MAGA voices say? They didn't say anything. They tried to say it was a false flag. They tried to say it was all fabricated, that he wasn't really a Trump supporter. And then the Truth Social, social media website that Trump owns and runs until it, goes into bankruptcy this week or whatever, scrubbed this guy's account, didn't want anybody to see it. So they got rid of it so they could, have some kind of plausible deniability. But that's who these people are. And so when I say I want to see them locked up, and I've gotten some pushback from other, people on the left about this, and I'm going to write something about it because, in general, as is the case for most of us on the left, we don't believe in the carceral state. We really don't want to see more prisons and more people incarcerated. But the difference between a typical criminal or criminal offender, I should say, I don't want to label people as criminals. A typical offender, whether it's a violent crime or a property crime or whatever, are the types of crimes that have very specific and preventable sociological sources, right? Whether we're talking about economic conditions, whether we're talking about impulsivity and things that are psychological things that can be addressed and people can get help with. But when you're talking about terroristic fascist activity, this is like the most premeditated kind of criminal activity. You can take someone who's an offender who, is stealing to support their habit, for instance. And if you get them clean and get them the treatment and the rehab that they need, they're not going to keep offending. But someone who actually believes in overthrowing democracy, what do I do for them by the time that they're 40 or 50 years old and they're attacking the Capitol? Do you think that I'm going to be able to sit in a restorative justice circle with them and have some conversation where we figure it out together? I don't think that's going to work with that kind of person. So if you get to the point where you're engaging in terrorist activity, I think you need a bunkie and 3 hots and a cot for a long time. And doesn't have to mean, cruelty and throw you in a cell and solitary confinement. I don't believe in that. But you certainly don't get to hang out with your kids. It's time to kiss them goodbye and get your affairs in order, and then listen to the clanging of the cell door as it closes behind you.